My question is regarding Jor-El. Will there be a part in the movie, you know, from the character Jor-El, and who will be playing him? Or was it silly rumor that you'll be using for the shoot of Marlon Brando?
Yeah, no, that is very silly. Jor-El will be in the movie, a very brief incarnation. Yes, he will be played by Marlon Brando. Very smart.
Bryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing okay.
There's two people in my life I've always been in love with, and one is Superman. One is... We gotta do this later, man.
Do what?
Okay, so one is Superman, one is my father. In fact, in many ways I thought my father was like a superhero growing up. So I guess my question is, why would you choose Brandon over my father?
Well, your father wasn't tall enough. And Brandon is a really fine actor. Brandon, and it's also always my intention to cast an unknown. I don't know quite how famous your father is, but Superman, when you're casting Superman, he has to appear as if he stepped out of the comic book or out of your collective memory of who Superman is supposed to be. That's why when you talk about changing costumes, it's sort of like, which collective memory are we talking about? And that's why casting a star, a celebrity, is someone, and perhaps your father, but was never really an option for me, in spite of what I read somewhere. It was always to cast an unknown, which is the same thing Richard did back in, for the 78 picture. And Brandon very much inhabits that character. If he were to be standing here in a suit, it's like you're in a room with Superman.
All right, thank you for being a fan.
Well, thank you.
I love you, Dad.
You too.
Love you too, Bryan.
I used to work with Lawrence Schuler-Donner on X-Men 1 and now is with Marvel. They're great. They were always supportive, always had my back. So the same as with DC. It's a great experience with these folks. You know, when dealing with comic book companies, they're, you know, fans first. So that's always a pleasure. In terms of the X-Men 3, this opportunity presented itself, and I've always been a fan of Superman, and I've always had an idea for a Superman film for a number of years. So I decided to take advantage of that opportunity and do it. And X-Men 3 is being made. And I'm unfortunately not able to split myself in half and do two movies simultaneously. If I was, I would be doing X-Men 3. I'm very fond of that universe and all the people involved in it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The character is, and I'm just wondering how you're approaching it in your vision. Is which is the disguise, Clark Kent or Superman?
Clark Kent is definitely the disguise. Superman, I think, inhabits three characters. There's Clark on the farm, raised by the Kent family. There's the bumbling Clark, the Clark who has to masquerade at the Daily Planet. And then finally there's Jor-El, the last surviving son of Krypton, and he's
Kal-El.
Did I say Jor-El? I said Jor-El. Already I'm screwing this up. I'll get it right. It's right. It's right. Kal-El, the last son of Krypton. His father is Jor-El. His mother's Laura. I know the whole thing. Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
I'm nervous. And I just got off the plane, a very long flight, so I'm disoriented and nervous.
Hi. What Superman comics do you put on a recommended reading list for people who want to bone up before they see the film?
I don't know. I probably, the early Action Comics. And, you know, as most of you know, I never grew up reading enormous amounts of comics. I've gone back, obviously, to look into I sort of fallen in love with the Alex Ross comics, just because of the visual style and the individuality and things. So those would be my favorite, for at least looking at the comic and taking it seriously. Also, in terms of just execution, if you look at some of the Max Fleischer animation is very unique, very extraordinary, and also the George Reeves television show, and of course the 1978 Richard Donner film. I would definitely see the 1978 Richard Donner film, of which this is kind of a springboard from.
Hello. Hello. Why was it important to fly halfway around the world on time?
Well, I thought about this because I am in the middle of shooting, and we're shooting very intense days, between 14 and 18 hours, and I felt that, to be really honest, if it was a fantasy film or science fiction film, it would be possibly different. If this was a science fiction or fantasy festival, it would be possibly different, but this is Comic-Con, and it is Superman. And I felt that if there was ever a time to make the flight, even for such a short amount of time, well, long flight for a short visit, it was this time. If it had been anything less, I may not have done it, but
Hey, Bryan.
hey.
I was wondering, why did you change the Superman casting?
Well,
We could,
change it from what?
well, the colors are darker and the S is different. And
Different from what?
Well, the Christopher Reeve.
From the Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
I just felt that
Just
it.
regular Superman comic book.
Well, no, regular Superman comic book, the S has been all kinds of colors and all kinds of sizes. This is what people forget. Since the original Action Comics and the Superman comic itself, it was a tiny S, it's been a yellow S, it's been a number of things. So the basis is kind of the old George Reeves show, and then you look a bit at Lois and Clark, and then of course, and the comic as it is contemporarily, and I felt that it had to be a suit that had the essence. Unlike X-Men, where I felt there was liberty to change in colors, because the colors started looking very Power Rangers-y. In the case of Superman, you don't want to be playing with these colors too much. You don't want to be playing with these patterns too much. It would be like giving Wolverine, 2 claws instead of 1, or excuse me, instead of 3. Sorry, it was so long ago. But in terms of the raising the S, I felt that the silk screen felt a bit dated when filmed now. There's also some factoring into how the suit is made, Kryptonian technology, things like that, which factors into our story, but it's not a big part of this. It's just sort of in my collective consciousness of where the suit actually may have came from. And it was also the suit that fit the man. First we designed a suit, but then after casting Brandon, you start modifying things so that it looked right. So when I went back and looked at the other suits, yes, too large, or if it's silk screened, I must tell you, it would have looked kind of, at this point, like a billboard or something. And it had to be just the right proportions for his head, his chest, and things like that. But in terms of changing it, you really have to go back and look and see the evolution of the comic and the television series. It's transformed immeasurably in ways that would surprise you.
Thanks a lot.
Sure.
I kind of had the same suit question, but actually I like the direction you went with the next structure, kind of looking at the suit. So I'll go in a different direction and say, Superman is the red and blue suit, and a Sandman has a white, black costume with a gray stripe. Are you going to keep the gray stripe for Logan's Run?
Oh, in Logan's Run? Yeah. Again, in Logan's Run, there are things we were talking about palm crystals for Logan's Run, and my production designer said, wouldn't it be neat if they were like under your skin? They were under your skin. I'm like, dude, they're the palm crystals. They got to be outside the skin. This is Logan's Run. So it's certain things you can change and certain things you can't. In the end, I guess it's up to me, but I have a certain barometer which I navigate through, and that's those things are part of it.
That's great. Are you keeping the renew process in Carousel?
Okay, Logan's Run. I thought this was going to be about Superman. No, Logan's Run. Yeah, the book does not have renewal, but I will have renewal in the picture. The movies will be a mixture of the book, my own things, and the movie.
Actually, I've got more of a request than a question. When I go see this movie, and I will in the theater, I'd like to see a director's cut of this movie. I'd like to see it as complete as you can make it, without somebody chopping out scenes to make the movie shorter. I've had fun as
Me too.
I think there's a reason why revenues are down 20% in Hollywood. You know, before DVDs, we never knew if they ruined a movie or not. All we ever saw was what was in the theaters. Now, you're able to go back in and show us what they cut out. I think more and more people are getting disgusted, saying, hey, I don't want to see the movie. I'll wait for the DVD and see it done the right way.
Yeah.
I think it's a shame. My question is, I don't know if it's studio heads or theater owners that are requesting it.
No, I think it's. I think sometimes when you get into long movies, there are running time issues with regard to how many shows they can put in a given day. But with this project, with the plan and the story that I have and the script that we're working from, and Dan and Mike and myself have worked really hard on, I think ultimately it'll play out at the right length and it'll be our length. And Warner Brothers has been extremely supportive through this process. And I think we'll have, it will be the director's cut.
Great. Thank you.
I may change that cut in 3 months, but it'll be the director. No, it will be. We're not going to, no one's forcing anyone to cut anything. So.
Well, you know how long the original was, and it ran over 2 hours.
Yeah, and I think ours will too. Hopefully not too far over 2 hours. They will.